Welcome everybody to a update on the latest forthcoming release of the Geopath Insights API. I want to take the opportunity at the beginning of this to just run through some common questions that are coming in and support cases and stuff, so get everybody on the same page and point out any pitfalls as we go. You'll see if you log into the portal and you go to the products section, that's going to bring up the different API products. We have the Geopath API 2.0 products. Inventory API is there now and is where we're building in more of the search and planning functionality. Custom audiences coming soon, audience planning coming soon. And then the other one here is the reference API. And this is where you can pick up some of the kind of core recipe pieces that are going to go into the rest of your use of the API. And so real quick, I can come into the market API, and this is going to be a standard GET call. We can test it out real quick using the portal itself. And so I'm going to look for DMAs. So I'm located in Atlanta today, and so I'll start typing Atlanta. And it'll bring up any markets that match this request. And so down here, 200 OK. DMA 524 is Atlanta, Georgia. Likewise, I can look at the segment API. This is where we can also do searches on the audience segments for which we are running calculations. And so inside of this, same type of thing, the Q parameter, basic query parameter, we can start typing in environmental, I don't know. And if I send this request, same thing. Let's see, did I mistype something in? Environment. All right, here we go. Type it correctly. Now, these are organized, and you can pull down the whole catalog, browse it as you like. They're organized into different groups. So this is in the Claritas segments. We're finding some consumer profiles, MRI, home improvements, any environmentally friendly green products. Similarly, environment, number of environmental activities done on a regular basis. I think we'll use 2602 here. Eco-friendly activities, quintile. So let's go now, and we'll go back out and we'll take a look at if I go back to products, we'll dig into kind of this inventory API directly. And so inside of this, I'm going to look first at our inventory summary search. Just pointing out a couple kind of helpful pieces of information. The inventory summary search looks across all the different Geopath rated inventory and summarizes information based on your criteria. And so in this case, you can see we can come in, we can give it different parameters. What is our target segment, target geography, an inventory market list, where is the inventory located, and specify what operators, plants, the classification. This is the hierarchy, new hierarchy of the inventory. Classification, construction, media type. Frame media type is what the operator names their own inventory outside of the standard classification. And then you can also give it ID lists. So if you have a plant ID or the Geopath ID, you can use that directly inside of here to summarize groups of inventory. So this can be done on a very localized level. If you want to get a package statistics across a set of inventory, you'd likely just come in, give it a list of IDs, and pull back kind of the combined reach and frequency of all those. Likewise, I prepared an example here. In this case, I'm going to look at this target segment, 2608, the environmentally friendly individuals. Target geography, DMA 524, which is Atlanta. I'm going to filter down. So this is where the audience is delivering from. And so my target geography is people that live in Atlanta. Now, as we move forward over the next weeks, we're going to be able to start looking at people that live in Atlanta, but how are we reaching them in New York or Chicago, etc., and kind of a more nationwide look. So in this case, I want to only look at inventory in Atlanta as well, so I give that a filter. Inventory classification, I'm only going to look at roadside right now. The other thing you'll notice with this next release is the place-based inventory will start to show up inside of the API. Measures range list, this is one of the things that people get hung up on a lot, probably your number one question. And so what this is saying, by default, if we run this, it's looking across a package of inventory and coming up with summary metrics. However, if all I want to know is the count of number of pieces of inventory or something like that, there could very well be situations where I want to return all inventory regardless of their measures. And so it's possible that we have pieces of inventory that have been marked as under review, where an operator has requested a second review of this, or new inventory that's in the database but doesn't have its audiences yet. And so by putting in, I want to specify a measure range where I will take impressions equal to 0. That's telling the system that I'll take everything, whether it has impressions or doesn't have impressions on this. And that'll return 100% to the inventory. And now I'm going to summarize this by frame media, which is that operator name for the media. So look across roadside, give me the groups of frame media, and I just want to see how many there are. You can also flip from the request value tab over to the schema tab. This gives you all of the documentation on any of those. And so we can see here at the summary list level, the possible options are universe, which would be just a summary across everything that I've supplied. This is also the default. Give me it by DMA, plant, classification type, construction type, media type, frame media, digital, non-digital, and or any combination of those. And so you can say, well, give me summaries of digital and non-digital by plant or operator. And so if I flip back over to my request, this is going to reply frame media, which is the how it's classified by the operators themselves. Click on send the request, it comes back with an OK. Now it's going to start replying with all of the different values. The first one, not so interesting. There are 2 windowscapes in Atlanta with no measures assigned to them just yet. But if I come down, the next one is walls. There are, looks like 58 walls. Here are the summary measures for across all walls. Same thing, transit shelters. There's 1,500 transit shelters inside of here. And so this is a way you can go in, query any of the different parameters and get back not only the available options, but also counts by those available options. We use this a lot in the user interface of the Insight suite and allowing people to select inventory and see the count by operator and stuff. The next up, we're going to go from inventory summary search to just inventory/search. And so this is go out, don't summarize it, but bring back all of the inventory that matches my query with its measures associated with those. And so again, I'm giving it the same target segment, again in Atlanta. Now I'm just going to say, give me anything that's classified as bulletin. My measure range here, I'm just looking at the top units. And so I've given it a sort parameter. This is something that's available in the inventory search that is not available in the summary search. So kind of unique there. In this case, I want my percent composition of the target audience. So percent comp impressions for the target audience. Descending, so give me my highest composition first, return me the top 50 units, and even if there are more units, I don't want to see anything that is less than 10,000 weekly target impressions. And so again, I send this off. Now this comes back and will list out for me the top 50 units in Atlanta that match that environmental criteria. So I pick up my response, here, as we go in, you can see all the different inventory details. And so inventory items, so a total of 50, which is what I asked for in my page size. None of them were invalid. This is if I had supplied it a list of IDs and that maybe didn't match an ID. And then I have inventory items. And so the top one, frame ID, this is Geopath ID 37241. We go down, I can see the media type. Is it digital, non-digital, height and width? The representation, this happens to be the owner of the billboard, is the Atlanta Clear Channel Group. Classifications, roadside with the description. Construction type is freestanding with the description. That's front lit. Bulletin, it is currently active, only active units, so return through the API. And here's its location. So we give the latitude, longitude, the primary artery. So this is on what they would say in Atlanta, Ponce, which is right Old Fourth Ward, south of Midtown. It's definitely where the hipsters, young people are, I can imagine, more environmentally conscious than others. And then my DMA, zip codes, county, state of all those. And so all this is available. The spot, now there's only one spot because it's a static piece of inventory, but it gives you all the measures across that. So 142,000 total impressions, 133,000 of those in market, 51,000 impressions weekly for our target audience. And then it just goes down the list. Another Clear Channel unit, and then to an Outfront unit. So running down. Now the new thing for this release is where we have been before. I'll give you a list of inventory. You give me back my package analytics through that summary endpoint. Now what we're able to do is using an inventory plan endpoint, we can turn that equation around. I can say, give me this many TRPs, and it will suggest the inventory for us. And so this is very similar to the functionality of the O-Plan application that Geopath has distributed in the past. Market plans, inventory plans, this is the endpoint. Same structure now, so all this should look familiar as we move endpoint to endpoint for the request. I'm giving it my target segment, my target geography. Now there's some new features. I give it an allocation method. Equals the only one we support right now, so out of the gate, what this will do across my media types, this will try to equalize the number of impressions for each media type. How many impressions, or TRPs in this case, am I going after? TRP is the only value that's supported for right now, but I'm looking for 400 TRPs over 28 days. And so I then give it what media types am I interested in calculating against. And so in this case, I've gone to the lowest level, that operator name for the inventory, and I want things that are named bulletins, posters, comparing that to, again, you can use any parameters in here. So in this case, I'm using frame media list as an actual list, and I'm saying don't differentiate between a transit shelter and a digital transit shelter. Put that into one group. We could have done all of roadside into one group, or specifically posters versus bulletins. So totally up to you on how that's defined. These media type groups are basically the exact same query structure or filtering as are done in all the other endpoints that we just mentioned. Frame media type, then walls being the last one. And so pretty straightforward. I want 400 TRPs over 28 days. Give me an equal distribution across these 4 different types of media. So very powerful, but very compact, I guess, or efficient in this kind of final implementation of this. Now, as I look down, what I'm going to see is something very similar to that summary endpoint. I'm going to get back all of the measures across the returned inventory. And so I see my allocation list is going to just be the array of each of the inventory types. And I'll have in each group a measures object and then a media type group. In this case, I didn't define anything except the frame media type name. And so this is for the bulletins. I'm going to need 11 bulletins, which will deliver a TRP of 131. Okay, 132 almost. If I go down to the next section, I'm going to need 37 posters to deliver 131 TRPs. And with regard to the next one, transit shelters, yes, so this again is across two different types of transit, digital or non-digital. And specifically now, this is also 37 for exactly 126 TRPs. So what am I up to now? I guess 390, 385, something like that. And then the last group is my walls. And so now in Atlanta, I have a limited number of walls. And so I have 4 possible units that can only deliver 11 TRP. And so that makes up the difference. And so what we see here is I'm going to build up in an equal allocation. If one runs out or falls short or something, I'm going to equalize that with the other. So I had 130 on the top 3 media types, and then I had 10 on the bottom. And so I can also come in here and we can supply a lock value. And so now we were getting 131 for our TRPs. I may decide that, okay, well, for bulletins, I want to lock that down. I want to for sure get 200 TRPs for my bulletins, distribute the rest of these. And so now if I do that and come back in, resubmit this request, what we see returned, again, I get my allocation list, my measures coming out. Now, for this bulletins group, just like I asked, we are at the 200 TRP. Everything else has distributed again to achieve my 400 TRP overall. So hopefully you find that helpful, find interesting use cases for this. As we continue to add features, we'll definitely keep you in the loop. Thank you very much for listening and have a fantastic day.